Hi guys and welcome to my channel. My name's Nicole if you're new here, and here on We Mama I do lots of motherhood, lifestyle, cleaning and organisational videos. So if you like that kind of content, I would love it if you could stick around and maybe consider subscribing. Today's video is going to be a motherhood one, and I'm going to be talking about 10 tips to help you recover from having a C-section. I had a C-section last year in August 2020 with my little girl Nina, and with my first I just had a vaginal birth, but with my second, with Nina and my C-section, it was quite a traumatic time. It was during the pandemic and Nina was measuring quite small, so I had to have extra growth scans to make sure that she was growing on time, and because she was breached we were monitoring her. And then at 35 weeks, I went for my scan and she still hadn't grown as much as they needed her to, and because she was breech, when I went for my scan and I went to see the consultant, she literally just said, "Oh, baby's measuring a bit small, so I've just booked you in for a C-section. Can you go straight to the hospital right now?" So yeah, that was quite traumatic. Whether it's a planned section or an emergency planned section or an emergency C-section, caesareans are a very traumatic process. Of course, mentally and physically, it is a very draining, traumatic experience, but at the same time it doesn't have to be. I was so nervous and upset about the thought of having one. Even though my experience wasn't the best, it still could have gone a lot worse, and I survived it. At the end of the day, I'm very grateful that my baby and I were both very safe during the whole procedure. We were absolutely fine, and that's all I can ask for. I luckily didn't have any infections afterwards or any trouble with my scar, so I thought I would share my 10 tips just to put your mind at ease after you have a C-section, and things to prepare yourself for afterwards. Hopefully this video will help you in some way. So first up, ask for help. After having a C-section, you have just gone through a huge traumatic experience, as I mentioned before, mentally and physically, and also it is major surgery. You brought a baby into the world, so definitely make sure that you are asking for help or you are taking that help. Do not refuse help. Do not think you can do it all, because even though you might be able to, somewhere down the road it will start to take its toll. Even if it's your first, your second baby, your first or second C-section, the newborn days and weeks can be the hardest, just because you are both getting used to each other, you are getting used to a new body, pain levels, what you can and can't do, less sleep. It's exhausting. So if someone offers to help, take that help. Number 2, take it easy, which I know is easier said than done. You know, you have it in your mind that you want to do and need to do this that day, and with a newborn baby, you know, some plans just get chucked out of the window, or you just don't get around to doing it. And this is definitely so much harder if you've got other kids. After my C-section, when my daughter was born, I also had a 1.5-year-old at home. So resting was tricky. Don't forget that rest is essential to healing. So even though you think, oh, I'm actually fine, I'm not doing as bad as I thought I was gonna do, I'm gonna go out for a walk, blah, blah, blah. Just try not to push yourself, try not to do too much, because yes, you're not gonna heal if you're not resting. And I know that sleep, when the baby's sleeping, is easier said than done, and also a huge cliche. If you can sleep while your baby's sleeping, then I would definitely recommend doing it. I wish that I could, but I found that even with my first, when I didn't have a C-section, just sleeping when your baby sleeps can be quite tricky. If you are able, don't think about the washing up. Don't think about that mountain of clothes that needs folding or washing. Don't think about the bathroom that needs cleaning or the food shop, which is easier said than done. But just take some time out to just calm yourself, sit down, have a rest, put your feet up, and if you can, have a snooze while your baby snoozes. Try and soak up all those newborn baby cuddles, because it goes too fast. Number 3 is support your scar. Sneezing, laughing, coughing, it's not your friend anymore after having major abdominal surgery. If you know that you are going to sneeze, I would highly recommend getting a pillow and just putting it over your scar, because it's painful. I remember in the hospital after I just had my C-section needing to sneeze, and I just didn't think anything of it. I didn't think it was gonna hurt, and I did a huge sneeze and I paid for it. It hurt so much. So if you can support your scar when you know this is gonna happen, I know laughing isn't gonna be the easiest, and the same when you're out and about. If you can just try and support it whilst you do know that you're gonna cough or sneeze, it will just make the pain a little bit more bearable. If you find that your tummy or scar area is quite agitated or uncomfortable, and when I say uncomfortable, if you've had one, you know what I mean. Sometimes when you lie on your side, your tummy can just get a bit painful, I'd want to say. Definitely think about supporting it by putting a pillow underneath your tummy. If you sleep on your back, put a pillow underneath your knees so that you're supported. I sleep on my side, and yeah, I did find putting a pillow underneath my belly just helped me to sleep a lot better, because when you move, you just drag your stomach, and that's just a big thing that you don't want to do after you've got a huge incision in your stomach. Number 4, the one you don't want to hear, the one that terrifies pregnant ladies and postpartum ladies. Go for your poo. Thanks to the anesthetic and all the other medication that you get post-operation and pre-operation, the constipation you get is real. And there is nothing more terrifying, in my opinion, than a post-baby poo. It's such a scary thought. You don't want to think about it, and then when the time comes, you're just terrified, and it's a very traumatic experience that no one talks about enough. And also the added pain of trapped wind after having a C-section. I wish that somebody had told me this before, because that is so painful. Having trapped wind bubbles, horrible, horrible. So my tip for this would definitely be keeping active. I know I've just said to rest, but if you do some like small daily walks, this will be really good for you, and it will help get everything moving down there, and hopefully that will sort you out. One thing that I did read up on and someone recommended to me was to take peppermint tea. It helps with digestion and your gut. Yes, after a C-section, it was quite refreshing actually, and I think it definitely worked, because I didn't start drinking the tea until about 3 days post-op, and I definitely noticed a difference after I started drinking it. And another thing that I'd recommend is to go for fibre-rich foods. So yes, definitely get on that, and when it's time to go, you will thank me. Number 5, avoid lifting anything heavy. I know I've just touched upon this, but it is something that really needs to be drilled in. Like I said, if you've already got children, this can be unavoidable at times, but you need to remind yourself that you cannot do it all. It is advised not to pick up anything heavier than your newborn for the next 6 weeks after having a C-section, but until you've actually had the C-section, you don't quite realise how much you do pick up and move about during the day. Things like car seats, heavy pots and pans, lifting up my washing basket, things like that. I realised that were really taking its toll, and you have to remember to not lift anything heavy, especially when it is avoidable. Stick to online food shops for a while, that's what I did. And when it is unavoidable and you have to lift something on the heavy side, like picking up another child, use your breath to help you by exhaling on the effort, like on the lift, to avoid creating too much intra-abdominal pressure, because that's when it hurts. Tip number 6 is to keep mobile. I did just touch upon this. Mobilization is just another part of recovery. It's a really important part of the healing process. It helps to manage swelling, how your scar tissue is going to form, and also manages pain at times. In my case, I literally just went downstairs to the canteen to get a coffee with my mum and my little boy, and then went back up. Just small little walks like that, just to get you going after the first few days of a C-section. Just short laps, and remember, don't push yourself, because sometimes the medication like painkillers that you're taking after a C-section can mask those symptoms, and if you don't top yourself up on time, you will be hit by all that pain when the painkillers start wearing off. So just keep that in mind. Try not to put off those walks until you do feel better, because apparently you might feel more pain later on if you leave it too long. Definitely start taking some little laps around your house, wherever you can, when you can. Slow and steady wins the race, my friends. Number 7, adjust to new ways of life after having a C-section. Little adjustments during the day can really help you out. I couldn't even get out of bed at one point because I had the snooze pod next to me, and then I had to roll over to the other side of the bed and then get up off my husband's side of the bed. It was a mission, especially in the first week, 2 weeks. I remember at one point it was particularly bad. I remember just sobbing in my bed because I couldn't get out of bed. So, you have to adapt to that lifestyle. So to get out of bed, I would slowly just roll onto my side and find the part in my body which wasn't that painful whenever I tried to sit up, and then I would slowly lift myself up and then out of bed. Walking upstairs can be painful, so just take slow steps, adjust. Don't think that you can run up the stairs like you're used to. I don't know why I said that, I don't run anyway. Remember, before you sit down on the sofa or wherever you are healing and resting, to keep everything nearby, because there is nothing worse than sitting down and then realizing that you need the bottle, your water, your tea, your coffee, your nappies, things like that. Keep everything in your vicinity. For my second, when I did have this C-section, I bought a nappy caddy, and this was so helpful to just keep nearby. I kept a changing mat underneath the sofa. Having everything to hand just makes life so much easier when you're not as mobile. Number 8 is massaging your scar. I actually did quite a lot of research on this afterwards. Nobody told me at the hospital to really touch my scar. They just tell you about the healing process as soon as you've done it, and that's it really. And I know it's a bit of a funny one. Some people don't want to be touching that area, and I completely understand that. I didn't want to at first, but after a couple of weeks when I was able to touch it and be gentle with it, I just used coconut oil because it was a bit more natural, nothing heavy or perfumed. The oil just sunk into my skin, and it's really, really good for your scar. Scar massage can help with sensation, reconnection, swelling around the scar, and might improve the appearance of overhang. Don't get your hopes up because unless your belly is as flat as a paper plate, you're gonna get overhang. Number 9, probably one of the most important ones aside from resting, is reflect and process the situation and your emotions. Whether it was elective or an emergency C-section, traumatic or fairly straightforward, there can be a lot of emotion surrounding a C-section. I was terrified. It was not the birth that I'd hoped for. I really wanted a water birth with both my pregnancies, and I haven't been able to have that yet. But most importantly, don't get into the mindset that you didn't give birth. I hate it when people say, oh, too posh to push, or you took the easy way out, but it makes me really mad because you are not too posh to push. It is not the easy way out. If it was like a planned C-section, you might not have had the pain of contractions, things like that, but people need to think before they do say things like that, because lots of women have to have an emergency C-section because they have already laboured and then had to have a C-section on top. So that just adds insult to injury, saying that, you took the easy way out. Whether you laboured or not, first of all, it is very traumatic. Having that kind of operation on top of the pressure of having a baby, it's a lot to take in. And the other thing that makes it worse as well is when people say, oh, I've had a natural birth, because no birth is natural. Literally, unless you're walking down the street and you pop it out, you've not had any form of medication or help, then to me that is a natural birth. That is literally what you would have done in the wild. Not walking down the street, but you know what I mean. Lots of people just say a normal birth just because you've pushed your baby out of the vaginal canal. And sometimes whenever I hear the term a normal birth, it just makes you feel like you didn't have a natural birth or normal birth because you had a C-section. I've spoken to some mums about it, and it just feels like they failed in a way. They weren't able to do what their bodies were supposed to do. So it's horrible when people make you feel that way. But luckily I haven't had that experience, but I have had people tell me that I was too posh to push, that I had the easy way out. So unless you've had a C-section, you will know that it is not the easy way out. And number 10, my last tip is don't forget your pelvic floor exercises. It is very important to still do pelvic floor exercises after having a C-section. You still need to make sure that you're taking care of your pelvic area. You've just spent 9 months carrying a baby, which, you know, puts a lot of pressure on these vital muscles. And if you have labored before your C-section, that would have had an impact too. So my nurse told me that you can start your pelvic floor exercises as soon as your catheter's out, your bladder scan is done, and you've had your first wee. So don't forget your Kegels, and if you aren't very good at doing it, I highly suggest downloading the app Squeeze, and that will help you and talk you through Kegels and pelvic floor exercises. So guys, thank you for watching this video. I hope it helped in some way. I really love making this content because watching these types of videos really helped me prepare for my C-section, because it was a scary, daunting time, so hopefully this can take some of the pressure off. You know what might happen, things like that, because I didn't have a clue. So yes, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Please leave any comments down below. Let me know if you've had a C-section, if it was planned or not, or if you were in my situation, just told to go and have one straight away. I post content every Tuesdays and Thursdays. I would love to have you as a viewer, so don't forget to click that subscribe button if you're interested. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!